let's get into the Utah Jazz and the Dallas Mavericks. I wonder how Jazz fans are feeling about this series. Let's take the temperature, rectally or otherwise, of Jazz fans and Jazz Nation as you get ready to take on the Dallas Mavericks, because I think this is a series that most people assume the Utah Jazz should win. They are plus 300, or excuse me, minus 300 on the money line to win this series.
Yep.
That is a pretty good favorite. I would thought it would have been more than that based on the fact that, man, you got to think Luka Doncic is not going to play in this series.
Mm-hmm.
And after talking to some experts,
sources,
and really looking back on some of the more prominent calf injuries over the last 5 to 6 years in the NBA, this is the injury that kind of sets you up for the major Achilles tendon injury that inevitably comes when you have a significant calf strain. And yes, the Dallas Mavericks are saying that Luka Doncic avoided a major injury here, but it's a calf strain. And I simply point to the average days missed in a calf strain are 17. And if you do some NBA math, that's usually 7 to 10 games that you're going to miss. Now, I know you know this. This series is a 7-game series.
Wow.
In a compressed schedule, thank you. In a compressed schedule because the Dallas Stars are playing at home. Now, you said Tony Jones was tweeting about why this was the Saturday kickoff to this series. The tip-off on Saturday is 11 a.m. Pacific time, I think, right? Is it 11 Pacific?
I think
10
it's 11.
Pacific.
It's 10 Pacific.
It's 11 Mountain, which would be noon Central.
Yeah.
And you say Tony Jones says that's because there's a lot of Euros in this series.
There was some conversation about how there's a lot of Euros in this series, and frankly, there are. I mean, everybody from, even if Luka's not playing, you've got a lot of Luka Doncic fans overseas. I mean, the guy's a legend overseas. You've got guys. Obviously, Rudy is French, so you have that contingent. And there's several others, but I think the league. The NBA is really good at knowing who is watching what particular games. Like who do we need to get this game in front of? And so I think, there was a lot of conversation about how, hey, they're putting this as a basically a middle of the day game because they want to pander to the overseas crowd. Now, you being you and you being the person you are and doing your homework, and you say that this is because the Dallas Stars are at home Saturday night, and they need to turn the building over.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out why this is that they are. Why is it that the game is so early? And it's because the Dallas Stars play that night, and the Stars had a real epidemic of outbreak that happened during the season, so they lost a bunch of games that they're going to have to put on the end here. So this game represents one of those moments where the Stars play Saturday night at American Airlines Arena. So the NBA playoff schedule wasn't ideal. So they're gonna play this game at noon Central, and then they're gonna convert the building to hockey.
Yeah.
So I don't believe there's any conspiracy behind it. I simply think it's a scheduling conflict. But here nor there, it is an odd time of day. 11 a.m. Mountain Time is not usually when the Utah Jazz strap it on and play basketball.
Right.
And I think we've seen one of the things is that when this team's uncomfortable, they don't play their best basketball. But when we're talking about this series and we're talking about it with the Dallas Mavericks, the thing that really stands out to me is without Luka on the floor, what is this Dallas Mavericks team going to look like? I think they're going to go ultra small. That's just my opinion. I think especially with Maxi Kleber looking like he's going to be good to go in this series, I think they're going to play that ultra small ball that we have seen from them. I think you're going to see a lot more rotation with Kleber and Dwight Powell. And my question simply for the Utah Jazz in this series is, how are you going to deal with a smaller, much faster lineup, which has traditionally throughout this season and really the last 2 seasons given you all kinds of trouble? And when I look at what the Dallas Mavericks are going to bring to the table, whether that's Brunson, Dinwiddie, you look at the myriad of quick guys, Dorian Finney-Smith certainly comes to mind. You look at guys and you look at the way that this Dallas Mavericks team plays, Jake, and I see a lot of scary matchups for the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, and I think your point about them being small, just overall in the big picture, that's what I think the thing in this series is going to be. because I think if you're the Dallas Mavericks and you don't have Luka, that's your next best option. And, one guy that we, I'm not going to say we disagree on, but we just look at differently is Jalen Brunson. I've seen Jalen Brunson over the course of the season, do some pretty special things for this team, especially when Luka wasn't playing. I mean, there's a reason that they brought him in. And so I think that he's a guy that you will see running point for them. He is a guy that you will see playmaking and running the pick and roll and distributing. So if he's playing well, this team is quite a bit more to handle than when Jalen Brunson is not playing his best basketball. So we'll see what he brings to the table. I think that's a name that you really want to pay attention to. Other guys that I look up and down this list, obviously Dinwiddie is going to be the number one option from a scoring perspective for this team right now. And Dinwiddie has shown multiple times that he can put up 30, 40 points in any game that he plays in. So, without Luka, they have some options. But I think your point is the most important one, which is how do the Jazz handle playing small? Because that is something that has given them trouble. How does Quinn use Rudy defensively versus a small ball type lineup? Because that the Mavericks are going to want to get out and run. That they're going to want to play in transition, alleviate the Rudy Gobert effect at the rim, and try to get as many easy buckets as possible and get that home crowd involved early. That is what you will see this team try to do in the first quarter of this game Saturday. So to me, if I'm the Jazz, I'm trying to find this middle ground where we're playing with good pace, but we're also not playing, with our hair on fire. Because this team, the Jazz, are not a team where they can play with their hair on fire and be ultra successful. That's not who this team is. But they're also not a team that can play real slow, methodical basketball and be real successful. So when you're playing the Dallas Mavericks, who are definitely going to try and turn this into a track meet and get up and down, how do you find that balance? That's the first thing that I think you need to look for. The second thing I think you need to look for is Donovan Mitchell. What does he roll out with in the first 5 minutes of this game? Because when I look at stars and I look at them coming out in the postseason, I want to see him come out in the first 5 to 7 minutes of this game and get going, get to his spots, get to the bucket, maybe even get to the foul line, and just see the ball go through the hole. That's what I think would lead to a lot of success for Donovan in this series, because we can't have the, 1 of 5 from 3-point Donovan Mitchell. That's just not going to be an option for success. He needs to have that, 4 of 7 from 3, 10 of 18 from the field or whatever, like a real nice, efficient game to start this series off. Because what you're really looking for is a win here. You need to split the games in Dallas to start the series. And if you do that, this series will be a cakewalk for you.
My feeling is you need to put your foot on the throat of the Dallas Mavericks right off the jump. I think you need to come out and make a statement in this series. There can be no fourth quarter collapses. There can be no questions. There can be no should we throw the ball to Rudy. There can be no more of that. That time is done. Yes. All of that is past. It is now time to win games. And in the NBA playoffs, that has been difficult for the Jazz against better teams. So let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks real quick. How good is this team? I think they're pretty good. Without Luka Doncic, they're good, not great. Mm-hmm. And without Tim Hardaway Jr., I think that's a loss that not a lot of people are talking about. He had foot surgery. He's out for the playoffs. That's a loss on top of Luka Doncic. This is a series where the Jazz don't particularly match up well, no matter who's healthy. And the reason they don't match up well is the guy you talked about, Jalen Brunson, has the ability to wreak havoc on teams like the Jazz, because I think what you're going to see a lot of from the Dallas Mavericks is a corner three. I think you're going to see the Jazz have to play incredibly disciplined defense because the drive and kick game is strong. But the other problem that Jalen Brunson presents for you is that he is very good at finishing in tight spaces at the rim. He does not mind getting bodied up and getting fouled. He does not mind going to the line. So that's something to watch. How do the Jazz adjust when Jalen Brunson gets into the paint? Because I think that's going to be a big part of his game. And with all of this noise around who voted and what did Bill Simmons do on Defensive Player of the Year, and is his mom going to win it over Rudy? What's Rudy Gobert's impact in the paint in drive and kick situations? Because at some point, the Jazz are going to have to commit to turning off the three-point shot, for the Dallas Mavericks because they're not different, or that different, I should say, from the Utah Jazz, Jake, in that I think they live, die, and thrive when they're making that three ball.
Yeah, I definitely I would agree with that. And that's why I think these two teams are so close because they do thrive on the three ball. But I think, a couple of points you made there, I think the Jalen Brunson point is on point. He is going to play in the mid range. He is going to be that, that guy who just kind of wanders through the free throw line extended, He's dribbling the ball. He's got someone on his hip. He's trying to get fouled, and then he kicks it to the corner to Finney Smith for a three. That's the type of offense you will see from this team. I think the real question for the Jazz defensively, again, and I don't mean this in a negative way about Rudy at all. I'm just simply going off of what we've seen before in the playoffs, where you have a situation where teams know how to get Rudy, either to stay in the paint and leave the corner open or to go to the corner and leave the paint open. So which route do the Mavericks tend to go? How do they want to play that? That's what I think is going to be really fascinating to see. But I agree with you. You cannot let the Dallas Mavericks make 23s in this game. You cannot allow them. Really, I'd love to see them not make more than 15 threes in this game. Honestly, I mean, if we're being brutally honest about what this Jazz team is capable of, I'd love to see them push out to the three-point line and force the Mavericks to utilize guys like Kleba or guys like Dwight Powell. You make them get the ball to those guys for two-point finishes in the paint. That's what I think the mission should be defensively. Because you can't have a situation where you've got, guys like Dinwiddie and Finney Smith and whatever other guys you want to look to, even Brunson or Reggie Bullock. You can't have these guys just raining threes on you. That just can't happen. So that's why I say I think that defense is obviously going to be really important for the Jazz here, but I think the most important thing, as it always is for this team, is Donovan Mitchell. Number one, can he stay healthy and not pick up that twisted ankle or that little injury that nags him through the playoffs? Number one. Number two, can he shoot the three ball effectively and take over this game early? Can he establish himself early and get it going and say, hey, I'm here. I'm a problem for you. Send the double and let me move the ball. Because that's ultimately what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Donovan get to a place where he's forcing the defense to double him, and then he kicks it to Bogey or even Mike or whoever it is for a wide open three-point look. That's their best offense, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we'll see about what Bogey's availability is to play his regular load of minutes, and can the Jazz count on him? Because he's also dealing with a calf strain, speaking of Luka. I mean,
yeah.
And by the way, the other guy that comes to mind when you talk about calf strains is Rudy Gobert. I mean, he missed that long stretch of games with a calf injury that was not nearly as clear as Luka's, right? I mean, there's a lot of questions as to, just how dangerous are calf injuries. And not to go back to that, but I think the example is the ulnar collateral ligament in a pitcher.
Yes.
What's the injury that usually is a precursor to tearing the ligament in your elbow? Well, it's usually a forearm strain.
Forearm discomfort.
Yeah, and that forearm strain is usually what leads you to Tommy John surgery. So It's unfortunate that that's the reality of it. But the small ball lineup has been something of kryptonite for this Jazz team. And guys like Reggie Bullock, I mean, those guys thrive when they're making threes. Guys like, again, Spencer Dinwiddie.
Bertans.
Davis Bertans is a guy that I don't fear much. He's a guy that, to me, he has bounced around the league because when he's hot, there's nobody else you want shooting threes. But he can be had. It's guys like Spencer Dinwiddie who can create their own shot at all three levels that really worry you because the Jazz don't have an answer for that. Now, will he be limited on some level because Luka's not out there to create space for him? Yeah, I think he will be. And I think they're going to have to find a way to still run their offense, but be better in the pick and roll. And Dwight Powell and Luka were fabulous in the pick and roll together.
Yeah.
So how do they duplicate that? Because without Luka, they're still going to be a pick and roll team. To me, it's just a question of how they duplicate that. And as far as the Mavericks go, I do agree Brunson's one of those guys you got to watch, but Reggie Bullock's three-point shot is one you got to watch.
Mm-hmm.
If he's making a lot of three, the Jazz are going to struggle in this series because he also has the ability to go by you. And one of the interesting things about Luka is Luka Doncic isn't the guy that's beating you with quicks. He's beating you with handle because you have to respect that three. So he beats you with a bit of a hezzy, and then he goes up, he fakes up to shoot that three. As soon as your momentum comes forward, he goes to the basket. Whereas guys like Brunson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dinwiddie, those guys have the ability, Reggie Bullock, has the ability to go by you. And guys like Royce, who actually has fared pretty well against Luka Doncic, because Luka, again, isn't lightning fast.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Royce are going to struggle with guys like Bullock, guys like Dinwiddie. These quicker guys like Mike Conley, Bojan Bogdanovic, those guys are going to struggle to keep guys in front of them. Now, is Daniel House going to be a guy that can change that? Yeah, I would think so. But let's see what the lineup combination is for the Mavs, because if you have all those guys on the floor together, which is probable, in fact, I would say, what do you do with Daniel House?
Yeah,
I mean,
great question.
Like, that's the question that I have is, how are you going to deploy these guys to limit what the Jazz are able to do in the paint?
Yeah, I think that that is the series. I mean, that's a great question. I mean, if I got the roster, the Mavericks roster pulled up right here, and yeah, I'm probably deploying House on Dinwiddie. I mean, that's the matchup and the guy I want to stop. Brunson is a point guard matchup. You're probably putting Mike or Don on him, but Dinwiddie is the guy. If I had to go up and down this list, and obviously Luka's out, but without Luka, I'm going up and down this list. Dinwiddie's the X factor because he's the guy. I'm telling you, he is capable of putting up 40 in a postseason game. That is within his skill set. He's done it before. He'll do it again. I'm not saying he'll do it Saturday, but that's the type of standout performance that you cannot allow happen if you want to win one of these games in Dallas. So yeah, I mean, I'd probably put House on Dinwiddie. As far as Bogey's concerned, I'm trying to create a situation where you don't need much from him defensively, because I agree, his health situation is not great right now, but you'd like to see him get 10 to 15 points for you throughout this game. Make a couple of threes, have an impact, and then go sit down. You're trying to limit his exposure. So we'll see. I think the other thing we got to talk about is how long and how effectively is Rudy Gobert deployed defensively versus the small ball lineup, because what we often see Quinn do is take him out with between 6 and 8 minutes left in the quarter. He rests him for a good portion of the second quarter, and then he'll come back to finish. So I'm curious, do we see more Rudy Gay in this series? Do we see a ton of Hassan Whiteside? What does that look like? Because that ultimately, if you can get that right, I think you're really setting yourself up to really control the pace of the game, if you can get that rotation right versus this team.
Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is Donovan Mitchell's struggles of late. Do you believe in Donovan? Like, what is your level of confidence with Don right now?
I mean, I think that Donovan is one of those players that steps up to the plate in big moments. I understand that he hasn't been the guy we've wanted him to be so far in his playoff opportunities, but I think this is the first one in a minute where he's been. I think he's 100% healthy. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be. So I think this is the first time where you're walking into the playoffs, you're feeling good with where your body is at, and you're just ready to prove a point. And that's the biggest thing. I think in the bubble, when they played the Nuggets in that series and they were just battling and going back and forth, that was different than what this is. I feel like for Donovan in the bubble, it was just like, all right, we're trying to do everything that we can do to win the series. It wasn't like, hey, I'm coming out to prove a point or anything like that. We're just trying to win the game. But in this series, I feel like because of the way the season has gone, Donovan is trying to prove a point. I think with the Rudy Gobert drama that Donovan and Rudy have had together all season, Don is trying to prove a point. Like, I wouldn't surprise me even a little bit to see Donovan Mitchell roll out with 35 and 10 in this game. Honestly, I wouldn't even be a little bit surprised.
What do you mean proving a point, though?
Like, proving a point that he is that guy for this team. Like, proving a point that he is the best player in this series, right? Even though that's a pretty heated debate between him and Luka. I think most people would take Luka, but I think if you're Don, your mentality has to be, I got to come out and I got to show these guys that I'm capable of dominating them night in and night out. And that, I think that mentality is different than what he's been going through the last couple of playoff series he's been in.
Well, and frankly, his offense is not my biggest concern because I do think he winds up head-to-head with Jalen Brunson. And I do think that Don's defense is going to be a real critical element of this series. I mean, how well Donovan Mitchell performs on defense will likely determine whether they come back to Salt Lake City trailing, tied, like in the lead in this series. Like, if Donovan Mitchell is able to inflict some damage on the Mavericks defensively, that's only going to help their cause at the other end. Because it is not a secret, I'm a huge Donovan believer. I believe in Don. I think he is the best player in this series, even if Luka is healthy. I think Donovan Mitchell has the ability to score 50 points a game in this series. The question to me is, what is he capable of defensively? What is his impact on the team as a whole defensively? Because when guys are getting in the paint, we've seen that it causes havoc for the Jazz because they don't move well. They don't rotate well defensively. So you've got to be able to count on guys like Donovan Mitchell to stand in front of Jalen Brunson. You have got to be able to count on guys like a Daniel House to take that best player on the floor and make his life more difficult. The Jazz have not been able to do that to guys like Devin Booker, especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
We saw that last week against the Suns.
Yep.
With House out there or House not out there. With Royce and House out there together, the Suns had their way. And it always comes down to Donovan Mitchell. It will on both ends. But trust me when I say I believe his defense is just as and maybe more important than his offense. Because my feeling is Donovan is going to score 40 to he will have a 50-point game in this series. That's just my guess. This stuff that happened last year in the Memphis series with the Doctors and the Clippers, Donovan is motivated not by showing Rudy Gobert he's the best player. Donovan Mitchell is motivated by being the best player in big games when you're on national TV and everybody's watching.
Yep.
To me, that's what Don's motivation is. His motivation is to win a championship. These are championship hours now. These are championship moments. And to me, that's what Don's motivation is. I think this Rudy Donovan stuff is so overplayed in the game because it doesn't matter in the game. Don's doing Don, and that's just is what it is, right? Rudy's got a job to do. And if he truly is only focused on winning a championship, Rudy Gobert will continue to set screens and roll to the basket. He'll continue to be the best offensive rebounder because that's what's best for this Utah Jazz team. But they need Donovan Mitchell to be a 40-point defensive stalwart, and I'm hoping he can be that.
Yeah.
Because his biggest question to me is defense, not offense.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So let's get some of your comments in here as we look forward to the Mavs and the Jazz.
Real quick before we read the comments. Just to be clear, what is your feeling on the series right now? Do you think this is a deep series? Do you think this is a five-gamer?
No, this is going to be a sixer. This is going to be, especially because the format is 2-2-1-1-1.
Yeah, which, by the way, I really like that format, just to put that out there. I really like the 2-2-1-1-1. I think it levels the playing field.
But here's what scares you. You have got to handle there's no question. You have got to handle your business at the Viv. Yeah. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
If this series goes back to Dallas for a game 7, you're not winning the series. If this series goes 7 games, you're not winning this series. The ideal scenario is you make 2 trips to Dallas and that's it. You win a game in Dallas and then you close out a game in Dallas. That's it.
Yes.
You have a closeout game in Dallas. Because if you're going back for game 7, if you got to get on that plane the third time, it's over. Yeah. You're in real trouble.
Yeah, it's not
because
good.
Now you're 10 days into this series and you're putting yourself back in Luka's window. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not doing it. I'm not. My feeling is that Luka will not play in this series.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if there's not a chance, in my opinion, that he's able to play Saturday. I just don't see that happening. I really don't. I think that's an awfully big ask for the kind of injury that Luka suffered, the kind of calf strain that he is enduring. It is not an easy one to overcome. And my feeling is that he will not play Saturday. But mark my words, if you come out and win one of these games in Dallas, and Don has a 50-point game, and if Donovan Mitchell is able to limit the guy in front of him, and I don't care if it's Boban or if it's Jalen Brunson.
Boban Marjanovic, big guy.
Yeah, with huge ears.
Yeah.
Dumbo. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. he's got to do his job defensively. He doesn't need to do the team's job. And this is probably the other thing that I would pay attention to. Do we see Don versus the Mavericks, or do we see the Utah Jazz versus the Mavericks?
Oh, I think we'll get Don and everybody else a couple of times in this series.
Well, those are bad times. Those are dark days for the Utah Jazz.
But they tend to fall into that when adversity hits. They do.
Yeah. All right. Let's get some of your comments in here. Spencer Morgan says, I need to change my YouTube handle to Jimmy John's Dingleberry. I agree. You should.
Yeah.
I think you should. Rub your butt on the carpet.
Wow.
Rudy Sanchez says, morning, fellas. Jazz should win, but I think this will be a dogfight. Jazz in 6.
Boy, I sure hope so, man. I would love nothing more for them to handle this series in 6 and move on, man. I don't want to come. I mean, I'd have to look at the schedule again. I don't want to be talking about a game 7 Mondays from now.
There is a good chance that the Jazz on Monday when we talk about this, the Jazz need to be in position to win this series in 5.
Yeah.
Which means they've got to win one of the first 2 games in Dallas.
Yeah.
That's just what you got to do. Edgar Garcia says, if the Jazz win this series, great. If not, I'm fine with it also. I might be more excited to see them blow this mofo up and see what and if they do anything.
Keep it real.
It's an interesting conversation. Honest to goodness, Edgar, I think that's a really interesting conversation. Justin Salas says, without Luka, this should be a win. Yes, it should. Yes, for the Jazz, I'm assuming you mean. My kid's soccer game is at noon on Saturday. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad of a dad am I if I were to miss my son's game to watch the Jazz? But here's the thing, Justin, that temperature you're running and that scratchy throat you have, I mean, and the general body soreness that you're feeling, those are flu-like symptoms, man.
Wow, Dad. Wow.
Yeah, and at this point, I mean, I'm prescribing, that you spend some time on the couch resting this weekend. I mean,
I don't know. You could just get your DirecTV app out and stream the game, at the soccer game.
Stop being practical. Stop being practical. My point is, look, man, you're not feeling well. There are going to be more soccer games. Your health is paramount.
Pause, bro. Pause.
Yeah, you got to go to the soccer game, dude. BB says, we will see tonight if this team is together or just broken. We will see. Well, they don't play tonight, so I don't know what you're looking at. Really. I mean, if you're going to be at the team dinner, let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
Spencer Morgan says, guys, the Mavs are one of the least transition teams in the NBA statistically. But think about that. Why is that? Well, because Luka is a slower player. This is not a fast break team when Luka's running the ship. Without Luka, don't you have to play with your hair on fire? Because you got to find a way to compensate for the 30 points you're not getting from him.
Yep.
And you got to find a way to compensate for the 3-ball you're not getting from him.
And you don't want to play. You don't want to play Rudy Gobert at the rim more than you have to. I mean, again, put yourself in the Mavericks' shoes. Your best player is not going to play in this game. That said, you still feel like you can win this game if you're the Mavericks, which I agree with. I still think they're in this game.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. You're going to have to compensate somewhere to make up for hey, Luka dropped 40 on the Jazz in game 1. Like, you're going to have to compensate for that. So, yeah, I just think they may not be a transition team most of the time, but this isn't most of the time. This is no Luka. You're going to have to come up with a game plan to compensate, and that would be based on the Jazz starting lineup and the way Rudy Gobert plays the game and the way they play when Rudy's on the floor, that's the window of opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. 15 points a game at 70%. Yeah, suck a waste not.
Yeah, this stat.
Without Dallas' best player, we should win.
Listen, this stat is one of the most overhyped stats I've ever heard in my life. This stat that he's referencing says that Rudy has a 70% field goal percentage on 15 points a game, and that's why he should be considered in the MVP conversation, along with the Defensive Player of the Year conversation.
I'm worn out on this.
And all I have to say is, dude, like, stats are not all that matter, right? The Mavericks on paper can be one of the least transition teams in the league. That doesn't mean a damn thing when Luka Doncic is hurt, right? Rudy can shoot 70% from the field. My mom can shoot 70% from the field if she could dunk everything. It doesn't mean a damn thing, man. It just does not matter.
And the other thing that I point to is, what does that mean in the playoffs? What does that mean in the final 5 minutes of games? What does any of that mean? He shoots 70%. He scores 15 points. Like, he's a great screen and roll player. Look at all the screen assists, Mont. Oh, man. He's the greatest screen player ever since Travis John Dingleberry butthole.
Hey guys.
So I just ask you, what does that mean in the playoffs? What did it mean in the Clippers series? What does it mean against the Rockets and the Suns? And
What did it mean against Joel Embiid and the Sixers?
what does it mean? It doesn't mean a damn thing because the game changes. The game becomes isolation, half-court execution in the playoffs. And whether it's Terrence Mann or Luka Doncic, and Rudy played well against Luka with that block shot, but how did that turn out in Dallas when, oh, wait, that's right, Rudy didn't play? I'm telling you, you can keep running these stats out. And I'll again preface it by saying Rudy's a great player. He is an impactful player on the game. But he's not somebody you want with the ball in his hands in the final 5 minutes. Great, he shoots 70%. Are you advocating to give the ball to Rudy Gobert in the final 5 minutes? Because I'm not. I'm not doing it. I'm not.
Nope.
It's dereliction of duty if you are throwing him the ball in the final 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It just... all of this stuff, the Rudy Gobert thing, I'm so done talking about this.
Yeah.
Like, if Rudy Gobert is the guy that you want, leading your team, you'll never win a championship. This Jazz team is built around Rudy Gobert, and their limitations are glaring. And I can only say it for going on 3 years. As long as Rudy Gobert is the center of this team, they will not win a championship. They're not built to win a championship. He's not built to be the centerpiece of a championship team. Oh, but that's why Golden State wants him to replace KD. Some idiot said that yesterday on Twitter. And I almost threw up on my keyboard. He's the replacement for KD. No, I'm not doing it. Anyway, thanks for commenting. We appreciate it. What's up, Teddy Wayman? Good to see you. Spencer says, BB, he gets his points off of rebounds and lobs. Take a look at results on film. When the Jazz try to pass him the ball with his back to the basket in the post, it's not good.
Turnover.
BB says he gets 90% of his shots around the rim heading to the basket. 70% is don't care if he gets them from lobs. But putbacks, it doesn't matter. That is 15 or more points at a high level. Okay, so then I ask you again. When Rudy has his best offensive games, how does that happen? Okay, well, here's how it happens. He is an elite rebounder. He is 7 foot 9 feet tall and stuff. He's got arms the size of airplanes. So he's a great rebounder. But that means that the Jazz are missing 3-point shots. Is that a recipe for them to win games?
No.
It's not. This team needs to shoot a minimum of 40%, and they generally need to make 25 to 33 pointers in a game to win comfortably. And so in the final 5 minutes, which is all that matters in the NBA, especially in the NBA playoffs, in the final 5 minutes, what you're saying here, and I'll read your comment again, put a final 5 minutes of the game lens on this comment. He gets 90% of his shots around the rim heading to the basket. 70% is don't care if he gets them from lobs or putbacks. It doesn't matter. That's 15 or more points at a high level. So, A, you think teams are just letting him roll to the basket in the final 5 minutes. Did you see Terrence Mann block his shot in that Clipper game? Did you see Mikal Bridges and JaVale McGee and DeAndre Ayton front and back on Rudy Gobert to prevent the lob? And by the way, in the final 5 minutes of a game, what's Rudy's best use? Rudy Gobert's best use, especially when the Jazz have been collapsing, is to get fouled and go to the line to slow the game down. That's what he's been doing to help the Jazz. You can't let him dribble. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but his shot percentage after he dribbles is dismal.
Awful.
It's terrible. When Rudy Gobert dribbles the basketball one or more times, his field goal percentage is dreadful. Dreadful. When he dribbles, his turnover rate is embarrassingly high. When the ball comes below his shoulders, which is a terrible habit that he has, he gets the ball, you're 7 foot plus. Keep the ball above your head. But he doesn't do that. He brings the ball down. He gets stripped.
Yeah.
Then what's that do? He winds up bitching and moaning to the official. And then he doesn't run down the floor. And they get a layup. And when you look at the way that teams isolate Gobert, and this is my question for guys like BB and everybody else, like Avli Like all these guys that support Rudy Gobert as the centerpiece. What do you do when teams like the Clippers and the Suns, and I'm sure we're going to see it from the Mavericks, when they ISO switch, they switch, they run pick and roll to force you to switch to isolate Rudy Gobert on a Jalen Brunson, on a Spencer Dinwiddie, on a Dorian Finney-Smith. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when they run that switch and reverse the ball so that Rudy has to guard some like Pat Beverly in the corner? What's your answer to that? And the problem is there isn't one. Are you better off with Hassan Whiteside on the floor? No, you're not. No, you're not. But what I would tell you is give up the 3-ball. Let Rudy Gobert do what he does best, which is defend the paint and the rim. If they're going to hit threes on you, okay, rotate, do what you can do, but allow Rudy Gobert to defend in the paint.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you do. That's the answer. Donovan misses 8 threes. Is that more effective than Rudy getting 70% at the rim? Anyway, Jeremy Bolton says if playoff Donnie show, comment dump. My apologies. If playoff Donnie shows like he has in the past, the Jazz will be fine. I agree. BB says the Jazz Rudy is not this fault that Donovan, Royce, and Clarkson play defense without Rudy. This team is just bad. I would double check your comment before you hit send because I don't understand what that means. Statistically, Donovan is incredible when he has 2 or more days of rest. Yes, he is. He will have a 50-point game in this series.
I mean, there's no doubt about it.
He will.
Yeah.
He will. I think one of the things that's interesting is what this series eventually turns into. We'll have a pretty good look. Next week when this series is here. Because you're going to know all you need to know about this Utah Jazz team, probably at the final horn of game 1. Because you're going to play at 11 in the morning when you usually don't do that. Your body clock's going to be all screwed up. What does that mean for you? There's a lot of reasons to believe the Jazz will lose game 1 no matter who plays. Let's see if they can win it. Because if they win game 1, they'll have a chance to choke them out in game 2.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. Am I the only one hoping that Royce tweaks his ankle so House actually gets time? Yeah, that's foolish. You don't want anybody getting hurt.
Yeah.
You want guys healthy. I don't know how to articulate this to Jazz fans. Royce O'Neal has value. He is one of your top 7 guys. You better find value. You better find a use for him. He's going to start, and he's going to play. And, again, I feel like I'm the one who's been carrying the torch for Royce O'Neal sucks how do I say this correctly? Royce O'Neal's not a defensive stopper, and he never has been. He has a use. Make him shoot the corner 3 and ask him to rebound. That's what he does really well. And if he does that, great.
Who the fuck are you?
But you bet. Yeah.
My bad. My finger slipped there. Sorry.
His name is Royce O'Neal. That's who he is.
Yeah, my bad.
Royce and Daniel House will be on the floor together.
Yeah.
This is a small ball series. Royce and Daniel will be on the floor together. I would embrace that.
Yeah.
I would embrace that. Quinn will be Quinn no matter how bad a guy is playing. He will let them suck and lose us the game. So wait. BB, you're new to the show, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you for commenting. Royce O'Neal is not the reason you're losing games.
Hold on.
He's not the reason you're losing games.
Where's the positive take on the team?
I don't know.
I'm just waiting for. I mean, obviously you're a Rudy Gobert supporter, and that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. But like, what are the positive takes as well? Because I mean, I just feel like you want to blame Quinn, you want to say Royce sucks or whatever. Like, what do you like about the team?
I would love to hear that. What I like about the team is that I think you have an opportunity to win this series.
Yeah.
What I like about this, what I'm looking forward to, and what I like about this team is that I think Donovan Mitchell's a superstar, and I love watching him play in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he loves moments like this. Does the ball always go in the hole? It doesn't. But I have a feeling we're going to get 30, 40-point Donnie, and he's going to give us a 50-point game.
Yeah.
And you know what? Guys like Royce O'Neal, guys like Daniel House, they're not the reason you lose games.
Yeah.
You want to point to a guy that's going to be a determining factor in this series? Look at Bojan Bogdanovic. You want a role player that has to come up big? Bojan Bogdanovic.
Dorian Finney-Smith.
He's got to come up. Dorian's got to have a huge series for them to win. I look at Hassan Whiteside. They're going to need Hassan Whiteside. Rudy Gobert is going to be in foul trouble in this series. They're going to need Hassan Whiteside.
Yeah.
I mean, you have got to get the level-headed, energetic, I want to be here. Hey, basketball's fun. Hassan Whiteside. Instead of the jag that's yelling at the fans and
The jag.
flexing when they're down 20 and
Yeah.
you need Hassan Whiteside to be present. Royce O'Neal is not going to be the reason you win or lose games.
Yeah.
He's not. That's more likely to be Donovan and Bojan. Those two guys. Bojan Bogdanovic, again, not to be redundant.
X factor.
He needs 20 points a game, and he needs to rebound. He needs to be a rebounder. Because you can't have second chance opportunities in the playoffs.
Those transition threes that he's able to knock down are going to be huge in this series, man. Like,
Gotta have it.
Even if he just makes 4 3-point shots a game, which obviously he's capable of making like 7 or 8, but even if he were to just make 4, that's huge. I mean, that's a great contribution. So we'll see.
And the question is, what's more likely, Bojan scoring 20 or Don scoring 50? And my guess is it's Don scoring 50.
Yeah.
Because too many times Bojan just has been a non-factor.
But what we can't have is Don trying to score 50 and bricking everything.
Yeah.
We can't have that.
Can't have that. Cannot do it. David Morris says Quinn needs to make lineup adjustments and stop sticking with a broken lineup. Okay, give me a lineup adjustment. What's a lineup adjustment? By the way, I hate to break it to you, this is the playoffs. So what is the lineup adjustment that you want to make now?
Yeah.
There's no lineup adjustment to make.
This is what I've been saying. This is what we've been saying on the show. Like, that's the issue for the people who are saying, well, Quinn sucks. Like, all right, well, if Quinn sucks, what would you do? You tell me you want to start Jared Butler, or you want to start Rudy Gay, or you want to start House.
You're going to play 8 guys in this series, man.
Yeah.
You're going to play Clarkson, House, and Gay off the bench.
Forrest will see some time too, I think, but
I think very limited. Trent's very limited. He's been one of the guys who I feel like you've kind of hit the ceiling with Trent right now.
And it is true, you do need to have Conley or Don on the floor at all times, in my opinion.
There's not you're playing 8 guys in this series. That's it. I mean, you're not giving Jared Butler minutes in this series.
No.
You're not. I can see a situation where you have a lineup. You want a lineup adjustment. I could see rotational changes. I can see a lineup where you're Don, Conley, House, Clarkson, and Rudy. I could see that. I mean, I can see playing faster, smaller. You got to find a way to identify very quickly how the Mavericks are going to come at you. How are the Mavs going to attack the Jazz? That's going to be a huge question. Because without Luka, and again, I'm assuming Luka's not going to play in this series. Certainly not in the first 4 games, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
How are the Mavericks going to adjust to that? Because they're not just going to come out and lob up a bunch of threes, I wouldn't think. I would think they're going to try and get in Rudy's head. That'd be my guess. Now, they don't have a guy that's going to dunk all over you on that roster. They ain't got that guy. I think you're going to see that they're going to play a hell of a lot of drive and kick basketball. And they are going to force the Jazz to play solid perimeter defense.
Yeah.
I think they are going to play a lot of pick and roll, and they're going to force Rudy Gobert to defend a 3-point shot, which he has been hesitant at best to do. That'd be my guess. If I'm the Dallas Mavericks, I am isolating Rudy Gobert on the high screen and roll. That to me makes the most sense. And if I gotta play Kleber more, if I gotta play, whoever there, Davis Bertans, if I gotta play a guy just to make Rudy Gobert respect the pick and roll.
Yeah.
Because if it's Dwight Powell, Dwight can shoot it a little bit, but you're not worried about him making threes. If Dwight Powell 3-pointers are beating you, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're gonna live with that. If I'm the Dallas Mavericks, I'm isolating Rudy Gobert at the elbow, and I'm making him defend a 3.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Phoenix, Golden State, Dallas. It's what all these teams have done. Houston comes to mind. Like, all these teams do that to the Jazz with great success. So now you're in the playoffs. You got to think that's going to be the same thing that you would see, I would think. Teddy says, I think the Jazz in 5. I think there's a good chance they win in 5. Because I also wonder if the Dallas Mavericks just fold. I mean, if they get down in,
I don't think they're going to get down though. This is what I think happens. I think there is a chance that the Jazz win game 1, but I also think there's an equal chance that Dallas wins by 10 in game 1, and really makes a statement and kind of rocks the boat a little bit here in game 1. And
Man,
then,
that's like worst case scenario.
well, I mean,
Worst case
yes and no,
scenario.
but I think if we're really being honest about what this game looks like, again, a middle of the day game in Dallas, and you're in the postseason. I mean, we need to see, because a lot of this comes down to Jason Kidd as well.
Right.
What strategies is he going to roll out? How are they going to approach this game? And honestly, how can they? Because if I'm the Mavericks, I'm trying to get Rudy into foul trouble as soon as possible. That would be like objective number one in the first half. Get Rudy with 3 fouls in the first quarter if he can, and go about your business. But I think those type of strategies are what I'm curious about, because frankly, the Jazz, the one glaring thing about the Jazz is they don't have a great ability to adjust their style of play to what the other team is giving them. So a lot of teams like Brooklyn, let's say, or Milwaukee or Phoenix, like the better teams in the league or the best teams in the league, have this ability to say, okay, they're doubling Kevin Durant. What's our option? All right, well, we're turning it over. Let's call a timeout. Let's write up some strategies. And now here we are getting easy looks. The Jazz are not good at that. So if I'm Jason Kidd and I know that, I'm trying to come out with some unique strategies. So that's why I say, like, I think, yes, there's an opportunity for the Jazz to win this game, no doubt about it. But I also think there's an equal opportunity and chance that they're not able to respond to something that Dallas does. And that's what I'm curious. That's honestly what I'm going to be waiting for in this game one. What does Quinn Snyder and this coaching staff respond with when you start getting the switch and when you start getting wide open looks from 3 in the corner, and because we can't have Terrence Mann in the corner again. That's just not going to be acceptable. There has to be an answer to that. So that's what I'm curious about. What will the adjustments be when adversity hits and when the Mavericks do something you weren't expecting?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know my feeling is that the Jazz, I would love to see the Jazz win by double digits in game one, but that doesn't feel like what this is going to be. It just doesn't seem the natural flow of this series.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem that. And I have a hard time. I mean, you're going to need the Mavericks to make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
The turnover numbers, the points in the paint numbers, the offensive rebound numbers, those numbers will really matter in this series. Because if the Mavericks are active and willing, they're going to be right in every one of these games.
Yeah.
Because they just are more athletic than you are. I mean, if you look at their stats and you look at their rosters and their numbers and who does what for them, I mean, they're just a really, really active team. I mean, and again, I think this equation completely changes with Luka Doncic's injury. They don't have a go-to guy right now today. Who's that go-to guy going to emerge to be?
Yeah.
Who's their Terrence Mann?
Yeah.
Who is the guy that's going to have a huge moment in the playoffs? Probably nobody, because there's not a secret weapon on that team. I mean, all these guys. I mean, my guess is big shots are going to Spencer Dinwiddie. That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
My guess is that Reggie Bullock's going to have a big series for them to win.
Well, and I think the switch game is going to go to Dinwiddie too. They're going to get him into matchups that are advantageous, no doubt.
Yeah, I would think so. All right, let's get a couple more comments in here. Let's see. N. Garcia says, "Oh snap, I was correct. LOL. I don't know what you were correct about. Good to see you." Eric C says, "I'm hearing that with a BYU radio voice." Jeremy said, "Eric, I think you meant fist deep in ranch." Exactly right.
Here we go.
We're fist deep in ranch on BYU radio. Can you imagine that being said at BYU radio? Jeez Louise.
Nope.
We're fisting deep into the bowl of ranch.
Donnie, you're out of your element.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Orion 1232 says the Jazz have been given preferable matchups in the last couple of years and failed.
I don't think the Clippers are a preferable matchup at all, dude. Not at all.
I mean, who have they gotten knocked out by in recent years? Denver?
Nuggets
Was
in the
Denver
bubble.
a preferable matchup?
No.
I think you had an emerging superstar in Nikola Jokic.
Their backcourt was better. Their front court was better.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Clippers were not a preferable
Bro,
matchup.
Donnie had to put up 50 just to go to overtime.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, that's a really good point. Teddy says, I can't imagine Luka plays in game one. If Dallas wins, I don't see him playing in game two either. you guys understand that calf injuries, this is not, it would be a stunning reversal if he plays in any of the first 4 or 5 games of this series.
It's not worth it to risk tearing your Achilles, man. It's just not.
You really need to understand the gravity of this.
Yeah.
I mean, a calf injury is it's the kind of calf injury you have. You know, like the upper calf, the meatier part of your calf.
Yeah.
If you strain that top layer, okay, you're fine. Like, look at Rudy Gobert's calf strain. Like, it took everybody a minute to understand it was a real injury. Because I think he finished the game he injured the calf in. And then didn't he miss, like, the next 7, 8 games?
Yeah.
Or I guess it was 9 games he missed.
But I also think there was some
with a minor calf
there
injury
too. They were playing a bit of a game with him as well.
Yeah, the biggest thing with this Utah Jazz team is they have a propensity to blow big leads. And you look at the Clippers series as a perfect example of that, and that's carried over into this season where you've lost a lot of fourth quarter leads, and it's troubling. So that's why I say you got to come out. If you're the Utah Jazz, you got to come out and make a statement in this series. You got to win by 20, step on their necks, attack the basket, get guys in foul trouble.
Yes.
Because with Luka out, their depth is going to be very tested in this series. I would be attacking the basket. I would, if I'm Jordan Clarkson, get in the paint, try to dunk on guys again. That was great. Get to the free throw line a lot. Shoot a ton of free throws in this series. Force the officials to blow the whistle, right? Like, get after it. That's how you change their fortune.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the Jazz, they're pretty good free throw shooters when they make them. But guys like Rudy can't shoot air balls in this series, right? Rudy's going to get fouled a lot. They got a bunch of smaller dudes and they have bodies in the middle. And he's gonna have to shoot free throws and win games on the free throw line. So I don't know. I think that's where we are with this team. I just think that's it is what it is. Eric C says, please God, if you're really there, don't give us the Clippers again. Seriously.
That motherfucker don't miss, man.
I mean, my God. Jeremy Bolton says, what I like about this Jazz team is Luka's mom. Seriously, I still love Donnie until proven otherwise. Don has showed up every year in the playoffs and has shown up big.
Yeah.
I agree. And I do like Luka's mom. Erich De Vera. See, I'm getting it. Erich. Good morning. Dallas would be stupid to force Luka in this playoff. They need to look long term. I don't think they would want Luka to be a Grant Hill, though he had a different injury. Mavs lineup is it. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. Big Dog, what's up?
Shout out to Mobamba.
Thank you. Big Dog coming with some positive vibes. I think with the Jazz being a lower seed in this year's playoff, the pressure is less win or lose, still blow this thing up.
Yeah.
I think no matter what, they're going to blow it up. And Garcia says, little known fact, Vivint Arena is built over a Native American burial ground. Oh, come on.
Come on,
Stop.
guy.
Stop.
Come on.
Eric C said, yeah, don't say that. Dude. Eric C says they're pretty good free throw shooters when they make them. Put that on a shirt and sell it for $24.99. I should. I mean, seriously, when like this team just has moments where they miss free throws.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like and it can be nothing short of your jugular's throbbing, so you're missing a free throw.
I thought you just said throbbing.
Yeah, throbbing. Jugular. Big and veiny.
Right.
Big and veiny.
Anyway.
Anyway.
All right.
Make sure you hit subscribe and like. Please, really helps the channel grow. Where do you want to go next?
It's 7:33. We have 30 minutes.
I think there is some. And by the way, some of the Twitter comments this morning. This Dante Exum video that's going around.
Please.
Can we stop with this?
Bro, okay. So everyone's like, oh my God, Dante Exum is dominating in Europe. Bring him back to the league.
Stop.
Dude, do we all realize the cut below that is Euro basketball? Like, all credit to Dante Exum and what he's doing. I actually am the person who says there's no shame in going and playing in Europe. Whether you're Dante Exum, Jimmer Fredette, or Mike James. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. Like, there's no issue going and getting your money by going to Europe. I just don't think it's something that should be like a shaming thing or or we should be blaming these guys. The fact is Dante Exum is not an NBA player. He never has been and never will be, mainly because he's not athletic enough. And the reason that he is able to do what he's able to do in Europe is because the quality of player in Europe is a cut below. But again, that's not something that should be used against Dante Exum. Not everybody is gifted with NBA athletic ability. So
Nick Whiting is making the argument that Dante's biggest issue is constant injury. He had like 4 season-ending injuries with the Jazz. A player can't develop if he's constantly injured. None of his injuries were freak injuries. The injuries that Dante Exum had, like torn ACL, and it's because his body isn't a big body. He was a young kid that never really played competitive basketball. Never got paid to play ball.
Yeah.
He was a guy that played on a club team in high school. He didn't play competitive high school basketball.
Yeah.
He chose not to so that he could prepare for the NBA draft. And immediately stepped in and he was overwhelmed. He was drowning. He was underwater. And he not only did he not make it with the Jazz, he didn't make it with Cleveland. And there's no shame in getting paid to play basketball. And I don't care if that's in Africa, Europe, Germany, like I don't care.
I really don't care if you think it's sus.
It doesn't matter. The laundry list of guys who weren't good enough to play in the NBA, but made millions of dollars playing in China. Look at Jimmer. Like the guy is an absolute rock star in China, right? And why is that? Because he's good enough to play in that league. The JIMMER is not good enough to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
Repeatedly, that's been shown. Guys like him, guys like Dante Exum, guys like, look at Stephen Marbury. Stephen Marbury is a generational millionaire, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in net worth, because he went to China after flaming out in the NBA, built a brand, has one of the world's best-selling shoes, and he's won championships there.
Yeah.
I look at a guy like Jordan Loveridge, the Ute alum, who is playing over in Europe and making really good money doing it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But let's stop saying about Dante Exum specifically, oh, those are freak injuries. You don't tear your ACL accidentally. You can absolutely mitigate ligament injuries with preparation. If you are a guy that has a knee injury, you are going to do far different and more in-depth exercises to create ligament flexibility and strength.
Yeah.
And guys like Dante Exum don't have the frame to put the muscle required on to compete at the NBA level. The guy could eat 1,000 bowls of fettuccine Alfredo and he'll never put on meat. That's just not who he is genetically.
Yeah.
Dante Exum was be real about it. Dante Exum was one of the worst picks in the history of the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
I mean, just if you look at Dante Exum, in, what was that, 2014, Dante Exum was the 5th pick. Picked after him, Marcus Smart, better player. Julius Randle, better player. Nick Stauskas, Noah Vonleh, Alfred Payton, Doug McDermott, Dario Saric, nobody cares. 13th pick, Zach LaVine, better player. TJ Warren, better player. Josef Nurkic, you didn't need him. I look at some of these other guys, and I look at Nikola Jokic, 2nd round, 41st pick, better player.
Good draft pick.
Jeremy Grant, better player. Right? Like, I can go up and down this list. Joe Harris, better player. Joe Harris was a better player. Right? Kyle Anderson's a better player. Bogdan Bogdanovic, far better player.
Hooping last night.
Yeah, he was. Far better player. Rodney Hood.
Nah.
Jazz 2nd pick in that 1st round. Not a great player. Bounced around the league, right? You made a huge mistake with Dante Exum. What if you had drafted Marcus Smart instead of Dante Exum? What if you had drafted him? Think about the fortunes of this team. Think about the fortunes of this team in the playoffs last year. Had you had Marcus Smart. I mean, it's a different conversation. Anyway, Dante Exum's gotten enough of our time.
Thank you.
Couple other things. Need to quit listening to you guys before my drive to the office, Orion 1232 says. Okay, that's fine. And Garcia says, just another outstanding draft pick by the Jazz. Add him to the list. Take a shot before listening, Orion. Helps me, Eric C says. You know what? Anyway, Eric C says, fucking love going live on Locked on Jazz and stirring the pot. Why does everybody say that? Why does everybody, like, I haven't ever, and I probably should. I don't listen to David Locke's podcast. Locked on Jazz is David Locke, the play-by-play guy for the Jazz. And he works for the team. What do you think he's going to say? Number one. Number two, like, everybody says that like, oh, I just go in there to stir it up. What does that mean? I love that. We love the comments on this show.
Yeah.
We embrace it.
Yeah.